Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to talk to you about another theory of aging, which is known as immune dysfunction. So what is immune dysfunction? Or actually, before we go into immune dysfunction, I want you guys to take a look at this picture over here. Um, there are a few cells here, but I want you to identify which of the glial cells this cell is and its main function. All right, I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Well, if you guessed that that was a microglia, then you would be correct. A microglia is your brain's immune cell. So how are you able to tell that this is a microglial cell? Well, the first thing is it's kind of branched spider-like appearance. It can be very commonly confused with astrocytes, but astrocytes are a little different as they don't have this very distinctive branched kind of appearance as seen here, right? So it's kind of more branched and it's more feathery than, say, an astrocyte like this. See how it's pretty plain? So your microglia are your brain's resident immune cells. Its functions include interacting with astrocytes. They are implicated in synaptic pruning even recently, tick pruning. But its main job is if it sees any foreign bodies, for example, any invaders such as um, microbes, or say, I don't know, any debris or any unwanted substances, basically any object that shouldn't be there. Any object that shouldn't be there. The microglia eliminates. So, why is this so important, right? Well, this is really important because your microglia, whenever they act, they tend to produce inflammatory responses. Inflammatory response. So, what does an inflammatory response mean? Well, basically, what it does is it produces molecules that cause inflammation, that cause inflammation. And in normal immune responses, this inflammation is pretty temporary and short, right? But the thing is, as you age, your immune system becomes hyperactive. Immune system. So, what does a hyperactive immune system mean? Well, what that means is that for any small trigger, it's more likely to be activated because it's suspicious. Or basically, it's much easier to trigger the activation of the system, right? It's easier to trigger it. Easier to trigger. So, if it's easier to trigger, what that would also mean is more inflammation. So, what you need to understand about inflammation is a form of stress on the body, right? It's a stressor. When something is swollen, it hurts, right? So if your leg is swollen, it's gonna hurt. Similar to that, when a portion of your brain is inflamed, it puts pressure on the surrounding parts of your tissue, right? Pressure on other parts and causes damage to the surrounding tissues as well. So, although a temporary immune response or inflammatory response is okay, because of the hyperactivity or because it's activated for every small thing, the time for inflammation, your brain is more inflamed all the time. Brain is in it gets inflamed more or it's in a more constant state of inflammation. So the thing here to note is that usually there would be anti-inflammatory molecules that come and calm the inflammation down. But with as age goes up, your anti-inflammatory responses, anti-inflammatory molecules also go down. So basically, it's like a twofold effect here, right? So not only is your brain becoming more active, which causes more inflammation to happen, it's also reducing the efficiency or it's dampening the effect of the anti-inflammatory molecules. So basically, your brain is making it so that it's pretty much constantly inflamed. And as you know, inflammation causes a lot of damage. It puts pressure on surrounding tissues, which causes damage on other parts of the brain. And because of that, it can cause cognitive decline. These um, slower cognition and all of that can technically be a result of not adequate of too much inflammation in the brain. So that was another theory of aging. Basically, the summary of this is that as you grow older, it's easier to activate your immune system, which causes more inflammation. But the anti-inflammatory molecules that keep this inflammation down tend to slow down or dampen their response as you grow older. And unfortunately, this leaves your brain in a constant-ish slate of um, inflammation, which causes damage to the brain tissues, which is why scientists theorize that you age. I hope this video was helpful, and it's a pretty interesting topic. I suggest you read more articles on this topic because microglial involvement in aging is actually one of the most predominant theories of aging right now. Um, Another thing that you should also think about is just that when you have kind of this immune dysfunction going on, it really makes you think that if this is happening in other parts of the body, why, like, it's kind of interesting to put it into perspective, right? If this were happening in any other place other than the body, it would basically be a very, very bad, right? You'd constantly have an inflamed tendon. It's almost like a chronic condition. So it raises the question of what is aging potentially reversible or is aging potentially inevitable? If we can figure out a way to treat this chronic quote unquote condition, can we potentially cure aging? So that's my quick TED talk. I hope that this was interesting and thought provoking. And thank you for listening.